Brand deals are so exciting until you open that contract and realize it kind of looks like a foreign language and you have no idea what you're about to sign up to. Some of those confusing lines can cost you thousands of dollars, so it's so important that you as a creator understand these weird contract terms and know what you're signing. Most creators just rush to sign things because they don't want to get into bad blood with the brand and they want to get this partnership started, but knowing what you're signing is going to make a huge difference in the amount of money that you make and how protected your brand is long term. Today we're breaking down the biggest red flags that I often see in creator contracts that you need to understand completely. Plus, at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you my rates for brand partnerships because we don't gatekeep here, and I know this can be one of the most confusing parts about being a creator. Timestamps are below, and let's get right into it. One of the most popular contract terms that you're going to see in most contracts is something called usage rights. There are multiple different types of usage rights, which we've actually outlined in a whole separate video that we'll have linked down below. But this is basically where you're allowing the brand to use your content for ads or for maybe a billboard in Times Square. The big categories here are organic usage and paid usage. There are multiple different types of paid usage, but the moral of the story with paid usage is that you should be getting paid if the brand is asking for it. Organic usage, on the other hand, most of the time you actually do not get paid for, but it's very important that you have a time limit in the amount of time that the brand can actually use that content organically. The red flags that you may see in this section of your contract are one thing called perpetual usage. Mostly this is going to go in when there's organic usage involved. Perpetual usage means that you're allowing the brand to use that content forever. I don't know about you, but I don't personally want to be attached to anything on the internet forever. And so perpetual usage is something that I typically do not agree to. We do have an entire video all about the reasons why you should say no and how to negotiate out paid usage as well. The other word that you'll very often see in this clause is irrevocable, which basically means that you cannot revoke this access. So if you give a brand perpetual usage rights where they can use your content forever, you now are not able to revoke that access if you ever wanted to. Maybe one day you don't want to be associated with the brand anymore. You don't even have that option if your contract says irrevocable. Instead, it's best to ask to keep this to a 30, 60, or even 90-day duration, or even something as long as 12 months if it's more organic usage. But I would highly recommend you are not signing contracts that say perpetual or irrevocable when it comes to your usage rights, and that you're always making sure if it's paid usage, you are also getting paid for that usage. The second thing you'll often see is exclusivity, which basically means that the brand wants you to stay exclusive to them in their brand category for a certain amount of time. For example, if you're working with CoverGirl, they probably don't want you to talk about Maybelline the next day or even the next week. And so they'll often put a clause in there that says, hey, you need to stay exclusive to us and not use any of our competitors in any videos for X amount of time. Now, the problem with this is you may lose out on opportunities. What if Maybelline reaches out to you and because you're already working with CoverGirl, you have to say no to that? That could be money that you're leaving on the table. So it's important that you are actually charging for exclusivity. Typically, the longer they are asking you to be exclusive to the brand in that category, the more money you should be asking for. Again, it's an opportunity cost that you're potentially missing out on these future brand partnerships. You also want to make sure you're really clear about who they consider a competitor or in what category. For example, if this is a vitamin C serum that you're working with, maybe they're saying no other vitamin C serums should be featured in your content, which okay, makes sense. But if they're saying no skincare brands, that is going to be a lot harder for you to stay exclusive to. And I would personally be charging more money for that versus just staying exclusive to that one vitamin C serum brand. The next thing, and possibly the one that you've never heard of, is a word called indemnification. Honestly, in my opinion, this is the scariest contract term in creator contracts, mostly because we just sign it because we don't know what it means. It's a big, scary lawyer term. Basically, indemnification is going to indemnify the brand, basically holding them harmless from any harm that comes of this content. So there was a situation years ago with a brand called Daily Harvest where they basically had influencers who were sharing this, whatever product, some health product, and people got really sick from it. And so if the creators had a contract that indemnified or held harmless the brand, they would actually be responsible for, getting sued for hospital bills and things like that, even though they are not the ones who made the product. If the creator is the one who showed the product to that person and then they got sick, they can be the one who's on the hook. Now, most times in contracts, you're going to see indemnification clauses that are really geared towards protecting the brand, because most of the times they are the ones writing the contracts. So it's very important that instead you ask for them to either take it out or you ask them for a mutual indemnification clause, which basically says, hey, we'll each handle our own stuff, okay? The next thing that we often see in contracts is something called a make good post. This really just ruffles my feathers. It really drives me nuts because I think it is such a scam for creators to be creating more free content for brands. A make good post is basically where in a contract, a brand is gonna say, hey, if you don't reach this stat or you don't get this amount of reach on this video or whatever it might be, you owe us another piece of content. Obviously, we all know what we're gonna try and create content that is going to reach as many people and garner as much engagement as possible, but the algorithm has a mind of its own and we have no control over that. So I personally am not going to take the fall and go create another piece of content for free just because the algorithm decided today it didn't like me. This is something that 100% of the time I will never agree on. There's literally nothing a brand could say that would make me agree to this. The fifth clause that we often see in contracts is content ownership and who is going to own the content that you're creating. Obviously, as the creator, you would assume that you own the content. However, in some contracts, you're gonna see that the brand is saying any content created in this partnership now belongs to the brand. And when you're giving ownership of content to the brand, now they can do whatever they want with it, whenever they want, however often they want, and they don't have to pay you another penny. So having ownership of your own content and retaining that as long as time goes on is extremely important, because then you can make sure that you're controlling where it goes, who's using it, how long they're using it, and how much money you're able to make off of it. There are a few other small red flag contract clauses that I did want to mention today. Number one being payment terms, specifically payment terms that are over 30 days. Many a times we notice that brands say in net 60 or in net 90 they're going to pay us. That means it won't be 60 days or 90 days until we actually receive our paycheck, which in my opinion is a little ridiculous. Net 30 is pretty standard. So if I ever see 60 or 90 in a contract, I'm always saying, hey, is it possible that we can get this down to net 30? That is much more reasonable. You could even ask for 50% upfront. A lot of creators like to do that as well. Not every brand's gonna agree to it, but it's always worth an ask. The next thing is brands who can edit without approval. So you may actually see that they have a clause in the contract that mentions that they can alter the content however they want and don't have to actually show it to you first before they post it. So they may use your face in your video and have you doing or saying something completely different from what you agreed to, and you don't get that final approval before it goes live on the internet to say, okay, I'm fine with that. So again, you just don't want people to have to control what you are doing, what you are saying. It's a really scary situation, so I never agree to that either. If all of this feels really overwhelming or scary, trust me, I get it. This is something that we get the most questions on in our membership Soulcial Suite. Inside Soulcial Suite, we have over 150 other creators who are on the same path as you, where they are learning how to build a sustainable, profitable creator business. And all of these scary terms that pop up or negotiations conversations we have to have with brands can be overwhelming. So there's no reason you have to do it alone. Within Soulcial Suite, you get access to support from other creators who have gone through these situations, as well as myself, literally anytime you need the help. So you're never gonna have to go through these situations alone. Plus, you have plenty of educational resources, community where you actually get to meet and hang out and make friends with other creators, as well as plenty of awesome workshops or even our date nights where we basically get to hang out and just talk about being creators together. So if you want information about Soulcial Suite, definitely check out the link down in the description. However, before we go, I do want to share with you my rates for brand partnerships. Again, we do not gatekeep, and I know this can be really tough. Most of the time, creators are using these sketchy Google rate calculators, and they're probably giving you a number that is A, solely based on your follower count, and B, really, really low. I don't want that for you, so I want to share with you my fair pricing method, which is exactly how I calculate my rates. So fair pricing includes, yes, your follower count, but also how targeted your audience is, the reach of your content, as well as the engagement that your content is getting. All of those things factored in give you a rate that ideally is going to be more reflective of the value you actually bring to a brand partnership. For me, as someone with under 30,000 followers on Instagram, I use fair pricing to charge about $2,000 per Instagram reel and about $1,000 for a TikTok video with, again, under 30,000 followers. We actually have a completely free worksheet as well as a quick little masterclass to walk you through fair pricing that's down in the description for you to download anytime you need it. I hope this video was super helpful for you, and I can't wait to see you guys again next week.